Spencer Lee has been a major force in the world of wrestling ever since he joined the Iowa Hawkeyes. But just how much of an effect has he had on the Iowa Hawkeyes program? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name is Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling. On this channel, we talk all about wrestling news, tips, and lifestyle. So if you're interested in those type of topics, make sure that you hit that subscribe button because you want to stay updated on all the latest going on in the world of wrestling. Now, one of the topics that I was asked this week, a great question came in, and that question comes in from Jose Caro in the YouTube comments. And please feel free to leave your own questions in the comments below or submit them at FancoWrestling.com. And Jose writes, "Hey Fanco, love the show like always." Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But was wondering your input on how Iowa getting Spencer Lee affected the program or steered it in any direction, if any. He's obviously done great things under the Hawks, but what would their program be like if they hadn't gotten Spencer, since, in my opinion, Austin DeSanto followed, and look at the impact in the fan base he's drawn in? Well, Jose, you're absolutely correct that Spencer Lee and Austin DeSanto are two big forces as to what's driving traffic to the Iowa Hawkeyes duels. And there's always going to be a massive fan base at Iowa. I mean, unless the program somehow goes way down in the dumps, they're going to have a big fan base. It's just something they've built up over history. But with Spencer Lee, with Austin DeSanto, I mean, how much of an effect has Spencer Lee had on the Iowa Hawkeyes program? Well, I'm here to discuss that. So let's talk about Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee originally committed to Iowa in April of 2016. And I will get to why these dates are so important, okay? His first season with the Hawkeyes was a few seasons ago, 2017, where he, of course, won his title as a true freshman, won his second title the next year. So he's a two-time national champion. He's bringing in big crowds of home matches. He's making noise in the national, just all in throughout the NCAA, knocking off NATO in his freshman year, who was a unstoppable force, beating Suriano in the national finals, beating Nick Piccinini, big match, and Lezak. That was all within his first year hopping onto the scene. Now, he did have a couple losses, but he overcame those, and I think that's what makes his story so exciting. Coming off of Pennsylvania, one of the best Pennsylvania wrestlers of all time, three-time state champion, four-time finalist, going nearly undefeated. Of course, his loss coming to Austin DeSanto, his teammate. And then the next year, Sebastian Rivera. Of course, there was some big drama there with Lee losing to Rivera at Midlands, and then again at the Big Ten Championships, but still winning that national title. What a great, great wrestler. And I think also what is so great about Spencer Lee is that he's a great person, great personality, a fan favorite. He's not the typical Iowa Hawkeye, which I'll be honest, I was actually kind of surprised that he went to Iowa over Penn State, just because I felt like that was more of his environment, his fit. But, you know, I love to see him as a Hawkeye. And, of course, most recently, winning senior nationals, big for freestyle and big for recruiting. Big for recruiting at the RTC with the Iowa Hawkeyes, I think is big in Spencer Lee because, you know, he's a 2020 Olympic hopeful. Now, is he the main factor that has affected the Iowa Hawkeyes' growth? Well, I think that there's a chain of events that has kind of stemmed back to one specific recruit. And I'm going to go through each of these recruits because they're all connected. Now, if you don't know anything about Pennsylvania wrestling, there are a couple big things that are key factors here. Young Guns, Franklin Regional High School, and the WPIAL, WPIAL. Those are three big things that are going to come up time and time again throughout this video. So make sure that you know Young Guns is a wrestling club, Franklin Regional is the high school that Spencer Lee attended, and the WPIAL is the region where Spencer Lee is from. Of course, PIAA, the big governing body. Now, I would argue that Spencer Lee didn't kick off the Iowa Hawkeyes' growth. I think he's a big part of it. I think he's a big, big part of it. But I think it comes back to Michael Kemerer. Kemerer is Spencer Lee's teammate, and not only in college, but also in high school. They both attended the same high school in Franklin Regional. Now, what was interesting is we saw their other teammate, Nico Mangaludis, go to Penn State, which is where I kind of thought Lee and possibly Kemerer would follow. Now, Kemerer is a year older, couple years older, actually, than Spencer Lee, 2 years older, I believe. And he's what started off, I think, the Hawkeyes' big growth. He originally committed in October of 2014. His first season was the following year in 2015. Now, Kemerer in high school, Powerade champ, WPIAL champ, and a state champ, all big factors that led to why the Hawkeyes recruited him. But he was kind of following other PA wrestlers, and which is where I think, and I will be discussing this in a upcoming video, is why Iowa Hawkeyes actually have a lot of Pennsylvania guys in their lineup now, which is a big shift from where they used to be. Now, they had a couple in 2014, in Josh Jebwa and in Mike Evans, who were from on the other side of the state, but both PA wrestlers, and showing that PA wrestlers can do well at Iowa. Now, Kemerer knocked it all off, but he wasn't the first recruit for Iowa. The first recruit for Iowa was actually from Pennsylvania, I'm talking, in this chain of events, and is Caleb Young. Caleb Young actually committed a month before Michael Kemerer. Now, these two did not go to the same high school. They did not both go to Franklin Regional. However, and Caleb Young is a year younger than Kemerer, so he started his first season with the Hawkeyes in 2016. However, one thing that runs stagnant through all these guys so far, Spencer Lee, Michael Kemerer, Caleb Young, Young Guns Wrestling Club. They all were members of Young Guns Wrestling Club. And when you have teammates, when you have, whether it's they go to the same high school, same wrestling club, they're going to be talking to each other. And with their friends, a lot of them are going to want to go to the same school to stay together. It just makes sense. I mean, that just makes sense. Now, at the time of his commitment, Caleb Young was a PIAA placer, a state champ his senior year, and a Super 32 champ, leading to why the Iowa Hawkeyes obviously recruited him. But he is not the last member of the Young Guns to go to Iowa. And this is why I'm saying that I think Spencer Lee has a massive effect on the program. However, he's not the guy who really kicked it off. I think Kemerer has had a little bit more of an effect just because getting everybody to go to Iowa. Next up is Max Murin, committed a year later, August of 2017. First season was in 2018. He was the 5th Young Guns wrestler to commit. The 5th, I'm only on the 4th. Well, I'll get to the other guy in a minute. The 5th Young Guns wrestler to commit. 2-time state champ, 4-time placer, Fargo All-American. I mean, he's got all the accolades. Great wrestler in Max Murin. Now, he said that, unlike some of these other guys, he said it wasn't just everybody all his friends and stuff from Young Guns. He said, it's just my dream to go to Iowa. Not many people get to live out their dream. I'm one of the lucky ones. And that's from PA Power Wrestling that I got that quote. But he said it's a right fit for him. And that makes sense, too. I mean, you're not always going to go somewhere just because your friends do. You're going to go because it's the right fit. Now, what happened next, and this was most likely Spencer Lee's, he affected this, okay? And you probably know what I'm going to say. DeSanto committed originally to Drexel in 2018, wrestler's first season, and then after a crazy national tournament, things got wild, if you followed that controversy between him and Michich. He decided to leave school and follow Spencer Lee, which is kind of crazy because these two have a history, wrestled in the state finals a couple times, and the most recent time at that point, DeSanto ended up beating Spencer Lee in the state finals in his last ever match, which was absolutely wild. And the fact that DeSanto decided to follow Spencer Lee just shows that DeSanto doesn't care where he is. He wants great training partners, and he wants to win. And I think DeSanto's somebody who's grown exponentially, and it was factored in kind of affected by Spencer Lee. That was a direct Spencer Lee factor right there. Now, the last guy that I think has had an effect, and that was also a member of Young Gun Wrestling Club, another guy from the WPIAL, which also was Kemerer, also was Spencer Lee, is Gavin Tcell. Gavin Tcell originally committed on the same day that Spencer Lee committed, which was pretty insane. A big day for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And one quote from Flow Wrestling, he said, after practice one night, he and Spencer Lee were talking, and Lee said, I want to go to Iowa. And Tizo said, I was thinking the exact same thing. And he said it happened just like that. They were on campus for the Olympic trials. They liked it a lot. The coaching style was great, and that's what he liked. Now, interestingly enough, Teasdale, of course, transferred or decommitted because it was just a verbal commitment. Decommitted from Iowa, ended up going to Penn State, training there, and then ended up. And that was actually he recommitted there right after Penn State's big national championship run in 2017 when they had all those champions. But after going to Penn State, running into some issues, he ended up recommitting in July of 2019, and he's been a Hawkeye ever since. So I do think that Spencer Lee has had a major effect on the program and bringing in all these Pennsylvania guys, which I think, look at these guys. Of course, Iowa has other guys who aren't from Pennsylvania who are top tiered. Look at Marinelli, look at Cassiope. I mean, these are just all guys, but talking about these 5 guys, I mean, that is just big for the Hawkeyes. And they've been big names, big headlines, big news, big things happening in their lives with the Hawkeyes. And I think that all kind of leads back to Michael Kemerer and Spencer Lee committing to Iowa. Now, please let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Am I wrong in saying this? Has Spencer Lee had the biggest impact on the program? And I'd like to know what you think in the comments below, because it's just an interesting discussion, frankly.